Hello everyone and welcome. In this video I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on Fear the Walking Dead Season 7 Episode 7. As is the norm with all my videos, I won't be holding back on any spoilers, so please do keep that in mind. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. My prayers were finally answered. I got an episode that was about Strand and an episode that was set, most of it at least, in Strand's tower, which is something I've been begging for the entire season. So you'd think then that I'd be happy, right? Well, does this face look happy? Am I ever happy? Do my parents actually love me? Of course, the answer to all those questions is a resounding no. It's a real shame because this episode could have been good, but there's just so many dumb writing choices that bring the entire installment down in my opinion, and once again what we have is another bad episode of Fear the Walking Dead. I have to say that I did like this episode's introduction, in which Strand is receiving phone calls from people who want to join the tower, and everyone who's calling him is just flat out rejecting. He's saying to them, oh sorry, we already got a person with your skill sets, or just sorry, we don't need you, or some he's just, completely hanging up on. And I like that because I think that was in keeping with Strand's character so far this season, and I liked how ruthless he was. I just thought that was a cool opening montage. However, I can't say that I enjoyed him having a little fit and, having a little breakdown because he didn't like the painting that this lady painted of him, which takes place immediately after this little montage. I just thought it was a bit dumb, really. Strand takes the painting to the top of the tower, throws it off the tower, and then he's like, oh, you don't see me. No one really sees me. And I don't know, this line of dialogue just made me think back to The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And when Jamie Foxx's awful Electro is like rambling constantly about, oh, no one sees me. And then he's like, oh, now they do see me. And then he still decides to be evil for some reason. I don't know. But yeah, it's not a good movie. And it reminded me of that, which is not a good thing. But I am hoping that Jamie Foxx's Electro can be redeemed in the upcoming MCU Spider-Man film. I am really looking forward to that movie, and I hope that Andrew and Toby appear in it as well. Can I just talk about Spider-Man for the rest of the video, please? I'd rather talk about that than Fear the Walking Dead.
Excuse me, Joshy Josh. I don't pay you to talk about Spider-Man.
You don't pay me to do anything.
True. Carry on.
Anyway, prior to Strand having a little breakdown, he received a call from Morgan. Morgan was outside the tower, and Morgan said, can you let me in because Baby Mo is ill and she needs to see June? And Strand just flat out rejected him and told him to get lost. However, after Strand destroys the painting, he goes to Howard and says to Howard, right, you need to go and find Morgan and bring him in because Morgan is the only one who really sees me. And I have no idea what this means. I don't think the writers know what it means either. It just thinks of them trying to be, artistic, and it's just pointless. Oh, he really sees me. Bring in this guy who I rejected 5 minutes ago. For some reason, I don't know. Morgan enters the building, and then baby Morgan is taken to June, and then Morgan and Strand sit down and they both have a drink. Now, I could have easily just watched these two characters sit down and talk for the entire episode, because these characters are supposed to hate each other for some reason. Yet I don't feel that their rivalry, you couldn't even say the word then, I don't feel that their rivalry has been really developed well enough so far on the show. So I would have liked to just had, 10-15 minutes of these two talking to one another. I think that would have been good. I would have enjoyed watching that. But nope, because you know what Fear the Walking Dead's like. You can't keep stupid away for long on Fear the Walking Dead. There's always something dumb that has to happen. And after a couple minutes of conversation, a flying walker hits the window, the window on the floor that they're situated. And then it turns out that the scavengers are outside and they are firing walkers at Strand's tower with a catapult. Yeah, firing walkers with a catapult at the building. The thing with Fear is that every time I think it's done the most stupidest thing it can possibly do, like the beer balloon or the wrestling scene, it just has to go and outdo itself. It just has to go and do something more stupid the next week. Oh, I hate this show. So the leader of the scavengers, or, well, I don't know if he's the leader or just the leader of that little group, but he phones up Strand and says to Strand, if you don't let us live in your tower, then we're going to fire more walkers at you, and these walkers will have, or they do have, sorry, a piece of that nuclear warhead in them that they found the other week. So that's obviously not good, right? They don't want walkers with nukes in them being fired into the building and that going off. The scavengers then give Strand an hour to think about it and make his decision before they fire more walkers at the building from their highly accurate catapult. Honestly, how are they able to hit Strand's building with such precision? Aim walkers at the exact floor which he's staying with a catapult. How have they calculated the distance? How have they got it, perfect every time? They wouldn't know this. They wouldn't know how to do that. Oh, it's so dumb. What happens next is that Strand has a heart attack and dies. Bye, Strand. Okay, he doesn't die, but he does collapse to the floor and nearly dies. And, part of me did think, oh my god, Chambers and Goldberg are going to kill Strand here just to troll me. They're going to hype him up, as this villain this season, and he's going to die in the most dumbest way possible just to piss me off. But luckily, he does survive. But still, this is another thing that really bugs me about this episode, because finally I got my Strand-centric episode, which I've been begging for since the season premiere. Finally, I got an episode about Strand, yet he spends 3/4 of this episode ill, barely able to move because someone poisoned him. I don't want to see Strand struggling to breathe, sweating, looking like he's about to die any minute. I want to see Strand bossing people around. I want to see him in charge. I want to see him not giving a shit, doing what he did at the start of this episode and doing what he did in episode 1. I don't know, watch this dude nearly dying. You give me an episode about him and it's just like you're taking the piss because you're making him ill, you're making him like useless. Like, oh yeah, here's your Strand episode, but it comes with a catch. The guy can barely move. It's like paying to go to watch the heavyweight boxing fight, the world title, whatever it is, and then when you get there it turns out that one of the boxers has had a stroke and the other one's blind. Well, actually, that would probably be more entertaining watching that than Fear the Walking Dead. But you get my point. It's like they give you something good, or what you think is going to be good, and there's a catch. There's something wrong with it. Getting back on topic, with Strand out for the count, see what I did there? Of course, that means that Morgan is going to be the one to step up and to save the day. Morgan is the one who comes up with the plan to save everyone. Morgan is the one who is swinging down ropes and, doing the action scenes, because we can't have anyone else on this show do anything. It's got to all be Morgan, because Morgan is the greatest person of all time. He is our Lord and Saviour. Praise Morgan. Morgan tells Strand that he will radio Grace and ask Grace to turn up in Al's truck, and then she can use the guns to take out the scavengers downstairs. But my question is this: why didn't Grace accompany Morgan from the start? Because Morgan made this journey from wherever he was. I assume he was back at the submarine at the end of last episode. This is the thing with Fear, it never tells you where characters are. They just appear in random places. But I assume he was there, and he made the trip from there with baby Mo on his own. Why didn't Grace accompany him? What if Morgan is shot? What if something happens to Morgan? Then the baby's on its own. Why is Grace waiting at home? Why is there a need for Grace to not be with Morgan? I don't understand. Anyway, what happens next is that Strand then passes out for the second time this episode. He wakes up and Morgan is standing over him, and Morgan says, "Don't worry, the scavengers have been taken care of. Grace came and killed them all." And to me it feels like Fear the Walking Dead just didn't have the budget, or for whatever reason didn't want to show the firefight, so they were like, right, let's just have Strand go unconscious, then we don't have to show it, just to save money, I think. And that feels really cheap in my opinion. Then as Morgan and Strand are about to kiss and make up, and it seems like these two are going to be friends again, that's when the episode's twist takes place, because it turns out that Morgan was the one who poisoned Strand in the first place. And I don't really know what Morgan was hoping to achieve by doing this. I mean, did he think that with Strand dead, everyone would start following him at the tower, despite most people at the tower not even knowing who he is? I don't really know where he was going with this, to be honest. I mean, I like the fact that for once he kind of put his all life is precious bullshit to one side and actually did try to kill someone. But on the other hand, it does feel very kind of just random, and out of place, if I'm honest. And it just feels like it's there to try and further justify this rivalry that the showrunners and the writers are trying to push between these two characters, when really I don't see there being much reason for it existing. Morgan is about to be thrown off the tower by Strand when Grace phones up and says, "Spare Morgan and I'll help you detect the walkers left that have the nuke warheads in them." Because for some reason Strand can't do that on his own, despite the fact that we've already seen his people use radioactive equipment, use what they Geiger meters, use the equipment that measures radiation previously. I mean, there's a clip of Howard going, "Oh, the readings are clear here the other week," so they must know about radioactivity, they must know how to detect radiation. So I don't know why they particularly needed Grace's help to do this, who knows. But of course, Morgan is spared because this guy, unfortunately, as much as I want him to die, he's never going to die. He's going to make it to the end of the show. He's spared, but Strand does this on the condition that Grace and Mo, baby Mo, they both have to stay inside the tower and live with him. Grace agrees, but it was the wrong decision to make, because it turns out that Strand is actually a paedophile.
Bring me the baby.
Excuse me?
The baby.
I didn't know you liked children.
Why don't you have a seat?
Alright, sorry, that was a bad joke, but Strand now wants to be the kid's father for some reason. I don't know, I guess to piss off Morgan. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, really, he should have just shot Strand should have shot Morgan in the back of the head when he was walking away from the tower. Anyway, Morgan heads off and then bumps into Sherry and Dwight because, of course, everyone on the show just so happens to bump into one another. You know, despite this being the end of the world, they always find each other really easily. And he bumps into these two and they take their masks off despite there being no change in radiation whatsoever. They just take them off because, as is the norm on this show, the rules regarding radiation are consistently inconsistent. And Dwight and Sherry are hanging around with what looks like the rest of the scavengers, or at least a part of them, and they take them to their leader, and it turns out the leader is Alicia. And I mean, it's great to have Alicia back, but I'm not even sure that she can save this absolute train wreck of a show, to be honest. The ending of this episode is so dumb. What happens is that these contaminated walkers make their way to Alicia's camp, and they're outside the camp, and Alicia gets her people to take up their guns and aim at these walkers, and you can see that these walkers all have like this contaminated sack on their bellies, right? So instead of aiming for the head and taking them out, they all shoot the bellies, and then what happens is they all explode, and then this red gas like goes into the sky, and then the characters have to run away from the gas. And it just reminded me of that awful film that Mark Wahlberg is in, The Happening, when the characters are running away from the wind, because that's what this ending is. Oh no, just run away from the red gas, run, like, ew, it's so bad, it's so bad. And again, it's another situation that could have been avoided if these people knew how to fucking aim. And that's about it, really. I mean, this episode is not good. I haven't mentioned the dialogue yet, but of course, with this being Fear the Walking Dead, the dialogue is terrible. I mean, we get cliche nonsense like Morgan saying to Strand, Victor, you gotta find a way to trust people. You gotta find a way to do it. And it's like, well, no, fuck off. Morgan, you need to find a way to shut the fuck up. I also hated how when Strand was holding Morgan over the tower roof, that he had like Howard in his ear going, oh, if you kill him, you'll make a martyr of him. Because we've already had this in The Walking Dead, right? Negan didn't want to kill Rick because he didn't want Rick to become a martyr. And look how that turned out for him. You know, he underestimated Rick, which is why he lost. And I hate, you know, in shows when villains do this. Oh, I can't kill you yet because you might be a martyr. Or, oh, I won't kill you yet. I'll let you just run off and then you'll come back to cause more trouble. Like, you know it's going to bite these characters in the arse, and it's just really irritating that, you know, characters such as Morgan, that they have such huge plot armor that, you know, the shows have to come up with excuses basically as to why they're not killing them. Oh, you don't want him to be a martyr. No, just fucking kill him. So yeah, this episode was not good, but I mean, you already knew I wasn't going to like it anyway. At least the trailer for next week's episode looks good because it looks like it's just going to be about Alicia, which, you know, I'm down for that. Hopefully that episode is good. But yeah, this was not a good episode of Fear the Walking Dead. I mean, it's not the worst episode of the season so far. I didn't hate it as much as I did the last couple, but yeah, it's still just stupid nonsense. It's still not good. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Did you like this episode? Did you dislike it? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below, and I shall see you all very soon. Take care. Goodbye.